Hey, welcome to an afternoon. Tony Talks Trash About Music. I got two big cohorts here with me, Mr. Dino Devick, Mr. Jay Stickley, here together to talk about a subject that's guaranteed. It was particularly chosen to irritate people. And this is one where we picked 5 records that we feel personally are overrated. Everybody in their fandom, you get advice from people say, "Oh, did you hear that's a great record? It's a great." You look, it's number 1 on the charts and all this stuff. And every once in a while, I'll have one of those where I'll just say, I don't get it. And even though you repeatedly try and try and try, it just doesn't jibe with your chemistry or whatever the hell it is that makes something like that happen. What do you think about the subject matter there, Jay? What's your feeling on this as we try to coalesce this into something we can talk to them here?
Oh, there's always lots of albums like that. Everyone's listening to it, and then I go out and buy it, or to get on, and I'm just like, I do not get this, or it's okay, but just never goes. One thing's funny is like I'm looking at my 5, and it's like I can talk about them, but normally these albums I didn't like, I didn't go back and listen to them that much.
Well, I just have to say why, I guess. So, anyway,
So you want me
what
to
do
go
you think?
first?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. My number 5, and let me do a little prelude to this. This was in 1977, Hotel California came out. I was never a big Eagles fan. I hated Eagles fan, but I liked that album. It had, they got Joe Walsh in. They had some songs,
Yeah.
they were just big everywhere. And so 4 years later in 1979, I buy albums like, okay, the Eagles been working on this new one forever. Let me see. And they come out with The Long Run. My God, it was a beautiful album. Gatefold and all that. I think it won Grammy for best songs. And I just did not get it, man. I did not get it. The only songs I liked on there were In the City by Joe Walsh and The Greeks Don't Want No Freaks. But I think the big hit was Heartache Tonight. And I remember
Yes.
one of the reasons I really hated it was because I remember reading all these interviews with, not Glenn Frey, what was the drummer? Anyway, the guy that was making it, and it took them forever, and they spent zillions of dollars to get everything right, and it was perfect. Then I hear the songs, and I'm like, it's not like you were putting Yes together there, Tales from Topographic Gap. You spent this long, and they had The Long Run with the song, and what was a really stupid one? Disco Shoes. No, the Disco Strangler. These shoes, and I mean, it did really well. It's one of those albums I hated so much, I listened to it twice, and I just broke it and burned it. Threw away the cover. Because when albums bug me that much, especially when I spent money on them, sometimes I came back around. I did that to Zoo to Lures when I first bought it. I was too young. Now it's one of my favorites. But yeah, my number 5 overrated was The Long Run by the Eagles.
Comment, Dino. What do you think? What's your
Oh, I, hell, I didn't even remember The Long Run. Like I do, and I mean, my guilty pleasure is Eagles' greatest hits. I swear to God, I'll pull it out and listen to that album. I love hooks, man, and those guys could write. I don't give a damn what anyone says. Those are lines on her mirror, lines on her face. I mean,
Yeah, I
that's
like
those are
Hotel California. That's
those
why
are
this one sucks.
classics, man. And those, but my God, that was a bloated mess, I think, the long run. And remember, they're in the throes of drug addiction when they, you know what I mean? They all had demons during that album. That's probably why it took a year and a half. Basically, Steve Albini could have gone in with them in Chicago and knocked the whole son of a bitch out in probably a week and a half. You know what I mean? The
yeah?
songs are there, but they were so out of it that they just, oh yeah, we got to take a month off, man, and go, and then get back together and all that bullshit. Which I've always hated that recording ethic. Go in, knock the son of a bitch out, and finish it. You
Well,
know.
you're right, Dino, because that's exactly what I think when I think of this album. I think of the throes of the West Coast studio. You think of Tusk. You think of Hotel. You think these guys doing coke and
Yeah.
deciding whether or not. And you know who really? I just got done one the other day on Steely Dan, and they kind of had that shit going, but with this crazy meticulous thing of doing 97 drum parts because one little thing was off. I mean, that's where the cocaine kind of maybe the speed
Yeah.
do that. But anyway, what's your number 5, Dino? Where are you going with this?
All right, let's ruffle some fucking feathers here.
Okay.
My number 5 is from one of your guys' favorite bands.
Oh,
and I know I'll get some shit from it, but I'm not the only one. I've read this 100 times. It's the Beatles, Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Okay, and let me preface it by saying this. This is from Mr. George Harrison, who happened to be a member of the band. Oh, Sergeant Pepper. Yeah, it's a bit tiring and basically very boring. That's from George Harrison. Okay. Another guy was in the band named John Lennon. Here's what John Lennon had to say about Sergeant Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Uh, it's nothing really but a compilation of experimental songs. That's what John Lennon said. And the reason why they both said that is if you go back in history, Sergeant Pepper's was basically helmed by Mr. Paul McCartney. The guys weren't contributing like they did, on the other albums. And I think that's where some of those two opinions from Harrison and from Lennon about the thing. I've heard it enough. I probably haven't listened to the whole album in over 20 years. So because I hear it all the time. If you tune into the radio, you're going to hear the whole album. And of all Beatles albums, that's probably the one I never have to hear again. I'm not going to give that up for the White Album. I'll listen to the White Album any day before I listen to Sergeant Pepper.
That to me is kind of another question of whether, if you've not you've heard it enough. I mean, I've got records that I've heard too much and I carry along in my head, but I'm not quite sure they fall to this. But I got you with that, man. I can't, given the significance and the time of Sergeant Pepper, being the fact that it was a catch up for us, it was '67. It's really hard to understand the cultural impact of all of it. It's
Right,
big,
right.
and Bowie had that. Kind of took that whole thing and made a whole career out of the cultural impact.
Yeah,
But I
yeah.
understand, man. But you're right. You're going to have a lot of people mad. It's not my favorite Beatles record, but
It can't be.
I
It
appreciate.
it can't be your favorite Beatles album.
No, I got
It just
great
it
songs.
can't be.
Got some great songs. What do you think, Jay? What do you think about Sergeant Pepper?
I mean, I'd put Magical Mystery Tour up there, like if I was going to pick a Beatles album that I really didn't like. And I'd say
Right.
George and John were probably a little jealous over all the accolades this got when it came out. So, I mean, that's what we're picking,
Well,
albums that
like
were
I
super,
said,
super popular. But
Yeah.
I'm not a big Beatles
yeah,
fan, but I can stick this on any time and it doesn't bother me.
yeah.
All right, man. Let me keep
But-
this rolling and let me keep the prod hot here. Number 5, my favorite one. It's not even my favorite one by the conjecture of this band. I like the self-titled one better. You ready for the imagine the sound of a bowling ball going down the
yeah.
alley. Fleetwood Mac Rumors. It is not as great as they think it is. I'm getting tired of hearing how great it is. I much prefer the single album with Fleetwood Mac better. I don't like this area of the band. And when you're talking about like you were delving into Dino with the cocaine studio session, man, that's the
Oh yeah.
we're now in they spent more money probably on studio bills than anybody else. The record sold huge. It's a huge deal. I am not that big of a Stevie Nicks fan, really. I don't like the
Me either.
don't like the way everybody. I just never liked any of the stuff. Lisa Messina, Lisa Messina that I dated named her. She loved it so much she named her daughter Rhiannon after that.
Oh wow.
You know,
Okay.
this is the Kaiser environment here. So I mean, it's not just Kaiser, but it was everywhere. I mean, that record was everywhere. It was a cultural phenomenon. It took probably 20% of the female population, girls, changed their style overnight to look like Stevie Nicks. So I mean, you can't. I can't. I can't. I don't know. I just didn't. I
Right.
never thought it deserved the accolades it does. Am I a Lindsey Buckingham fan? Yes. But outside of him, really in the band, I'm not that crazy. The rhythm section's good. I love the Peter Green Fleetwood Mac, and I'm not trying to be an asshole like those people that say that they like Sid Barrett better than they like Gilmore. I do though. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd like to lie to you and tell you that I don't, but I'm not putting on some airs here. I don't like the pop sound of that. It was you gotta when you grew up like we did, us three, freaking that voice everywhere, everywhere you walk into a store, you turn on the radio.
It's
It's
there.
everywhere. You
Yeah.
couldn't you had to carve out your own safety place from this shit. And that's so this is one of the records that it just got overexposed. And so I
Ugh.
my number five, man. That's my number five. Not something that I have to listen again because I've really never pounded it. I never really
That's
never listened to it. But anyway, that's my number five. What's your take on it, Jay?
that's weird. I bought Fleetwood Mac, but I didn't buy Rumors. But I did buy Tusk. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I agree with everything you say. It was like it's so clean, you know. They worried so much. I'm sure every beat was perfect, you know, millisecond down. But yeah, as Neil Young says, what's that matter?
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay,
It was not. Yeah, and I'm with you. I like the Peter Green period. Remember when Bob Welch played guitar for
Yeah,
Fleetwood Mac?
yeah.
That was great. That was a good period of the band. But yeah, I mean, once again, very poppy, very West Coast, indulgent, and Fleetwood Mac. Did you ever go to Fleetwood's down in Alexandria? You
I
remember when?
played Fleetwoods. I
Did
think
you play?
I was going to tell that story, but I'll tell it quickly. I was playing in a jazz band that got booked there, and I got booked there, and I was playing, and there was this guy in a trench coat that was sitting in the car, and I never knew it was his club when I played. I didn't know he owned a club. I didn't know.
Yeah,
So I'm playing drums. I'm setting up my drums. It's me, Andre, Ariel, my friend down there playing piano. We had the saxophone guy, and we used to just blow on things like for a long time. Like we play like Inchworm and stuff, Hans Christian and different stuff that we could just go on. We played actually, believe it or not, I played at Union Station too for a while. To me, it's crazy. People come into this country for the first time, and I'm the first person they see. I'm about as authentic of a jazz drummer as you can be, and I'm in the home of Duke Ellington. I mean, you know, it,
wow,
it but I got the gig. We got the gig because Andre hustled and Andre did this stuff. But anyway,
yeah,
I'm playing there. I'm playing there, and so we go out for a break outside, and all of a sudden I'm here tap 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 on my drums and shit. I'm like, the fuck's playing my drums? I'm like, you can't just get up and play the drums. So I went up there, and it was this
yeah,
guy, and it was this guy at first, and then he goes back to the thing and kind of didn't say anything and shut it off. And he said, "That's the owner." And then I saw him at first, and then I realized it like between the second and third break. That's
Mick
Mick.
Fleetwood.
He had just done some damn thing about some African thing or The Visitor or some record like that. He had just been done something like that, and I realized it when it was done. I never really thought it was a big deal because truthfully, he sat there and like watched and listened to it like anybody else. But that
Yeah,
place, I never really understood how they made a lot of money. It was pretty big, but it when you're paying a jazz band a little bit of money to play, they didn't pay us a lot. Probably made 50 or 75 bucks or something there, but still and that's probably why, because it was owned by somebody. It was a musician. It was sensitive to that. But
yeah.
anyway, that's my Fleetwood story. It's ridiculous, but go ahead, Jay. Give me your number four, man. Let's move this along. It's going to be too long here.
okay. My number four is another one of those ones where I was already into the band and the guy, and then he comes out with this new album. It's great. The critics are all about it, and Springsteen's Nebraska. It's like, okay, I get it. Take it and finish the songs. When am I going to listen to that? Once or twice? I'm sitting out by the fireplace. Granted, they're good songs, Mansion on the Hill, Johnny 99, Highway Patrolman, but I just sold out full price, full price for an album that wasn't finished in my mind. There should have been some disclaimer on there. This is bare bones solo Bruce Springsteen. I mean, that's what the critics jumped on and loved it. But that's one of my overrated. I think it sold it's still at the top of the list and sold a shitload. I thought it would like drop like a stone, but that's my number four, Springsteen, Nebraska.
What's your take, Dino? What do you think, man?
Well, I got to go in the opposite direction on that one. That's actually one of my favorite Springsteen albums. And the reason why that was his going down to New York. Springsteen was a huge, and still is to this day, a huge Suicide fan. Martin Rev and Alan Vega. He loved Alan Vega. And if you listen to State Trooper, it is a homage to Suicide with an acoustic guitar. So some of the songs are really good. Actually, I saw a special, I think it was on PBS like a couple months ago, but it's so renowned in the musician arena, that album, that there were like a different band, and there were some pretty big name bands, and they did a tribute to that album on PBS live.
Wow,
And
I think I saw.
all these bands did covers of those songs, but filled out, with a real band. So there were bands doing those songs which you'd never heard before. He
Well, I
just
can't.
did it with a 4 track. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And these guys were doing it with 2 singers or a female singer, drummer, bass player, keyboard player, and it was really different. Listening to those
They
takes.
they
But
they finished the songs.
yeah, well, it's a full band. I mean, those were 4 track demos, is what they were.
I
Well,
mean, I could see songwriters like me, but I can't see why musicians would be attracted to that album because it was just Springsteen
Well, it
on
was all
acoustic.
yeah, it was all songwriters. These bands are all pretty heavy songwriters, but they did it as a band and they did a tribute to it. But I don't think he plays a lot of these live. I don't know. Maybe a couple he does occasionally. I'm not sure. I haven't seen Springsteen for decades.
Jay just saw Bruce. Jay just saw Bruce down this year.
Right down in Baltimore. Yeah, the last time I saw him, you ready for this? Capitol Center.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Capitol Center in 1980, maybe for the River.
Yeah.
I
Well,
saw him for the
my
River.
take on this is probably similar more to yours, Dino, as a writer and stuff. I appreciated the bare bones of it, but I admit I was surprised that it sold as well as it did because it wasn't really directed to be, to compete with the same audience that loved Rosalita, and all that shit. They just
Or the
band. I mean, and I love Bruce. I saw my experience with Bruce is kind of weird. I saw Bruce twice. I saw him first time on Tunnel of Love tour, and everybody told me, "Oh, that's atypical. You're not. That's not the one where they do the big rev
right,
up." Then I saw the Amnesty tour that same year with Tracy
you,
Chapman and
right,
Gabriel, all that shit. And that was a real Springsteen, pulling out all the stops and five
yeah.
on and the crazy thing. But yeah, man. So yeah, I understand that. And there's a lot of disappointment. You know what came to mind when you said that about that, Jay? Because the expectations. I remember John Harmon told me that Nips bought Sleep Dirt by Frank Zappa, and he said, and and John Harmon goes, "Did you like Sleep Dirt?" He goes, "He only said one word." He goes, "My fingers got stuck at the end of the." So he was disappointed that there weren't vocals the same way that maybe we're
Right,
disappointed in Springsteen that the songs weren't fleshed out. And it's true. I
yeah,
think the lost part of what you're saying, Jay, and I am picking it up, is that the songs could have been way greater if they would have been developed more. They could have really been something. I mean, if you like them, but in a way, when you leave songs like that, it leaves like things to the imagination. That's why I appreciate Bert Jansen and Renborn and people like that, because they leave some of the fruit kind of on the vine and let you
yeah.
decide kind of where you're going to go with it mentally. It's weird, but yeah, man, that's a great pick. What's your number 4, Dino?
Well, I guarantee you, none of you have this on your list. I know for a fact. I could tell you because you didn't think about it, but I did. And this guy was in a band that I used to love before he became a member of the fucking band. Okay, and then he embarked on a solo career, and he had an album in 1985 called No Jacket Required.
Oh
And
my,
his name is Phil Collins.
wow.
Okay. That album, okay, listen to these tracks: Susudio, One More Night, Don't Lose My Number, and of course, the ultimate single off that album, Take Me Home from 1985. Phil Collins, No Jacket Required, absolutely one of the most overrated albums of all time. And I swear to God, if I never hear one of those songs again on the radio, I will die a happy person because I couldn't. And the critics came out for it. Oh, Phil's a genius after that album. And I literally have to turn the radio off when I hear any of it.
With me, my comment there with that is that it has to do from a certain era. I think from that era, you couldn't probably pick something that was more overexposed or more
There you
overrated.
go.
Where he came from, Dino. I mean, he came as a drummer from. He played in Brand X and actually played, on some pretty decent Genesis records with Gabriel still on it. He was a great drummer,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's just weird. But that was kind of he after Face Value, man. That was kind of where he went to.
No
It's
jacket
fun.
required.
Yeah, it's funny. Some of these are coming back now. Some of the people are starting to, those records. The price of them when you could buy on vinyl was like low, and now they're starting to
Oh
creep.
yeah.
I
I guess.
thought of that. I thought of that album, but I never bought it in the first place.
Well, I never had it. I just was force fed it like an intubation tube. It was shoved down my throat every fucking day of the week, you know. And I was like, God, please, I would turn the radio off. I couldn't take it anymore.
That drummer part's cool.
Well, that's on face value. That's a different record, though.
That's
That,
Oh,
another. Yeah,
okay.
that's exactly correct. This is no jacket required.
yeah. All right,
Uh,
man. Let me go to my number four. My number four is going to be something that's probably not going to be on your chart. And the reason this damn thing flunks it for me is the inexcusable high school sophomorish lyrics. I cannot get over it. I won't get over it. I'm not accepting it. I'm not digging it. I would have been humiliated if they put it out. I'm talking about Alanis Morissette, "Jagged Little Pill." It is humiliating.
wow.
The lyrics are humiliating. They are on a cretinous high school
What
girl
was it?
racing, doing bubblegum level. That's the level it is. I hate it. I hate the lyrics. I hate when it comes to this, yeah, 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 this stuff. The drummer was great. The drummer got the hell out of there and went with Dave Grohl and the Foo Fighters and played some.
Yeah.
I just have never I wonder this, and I'm probably the only person in the world that every time I see Alanis Morissette said, I think, how can you recover from this? How do you recover from how when you make a song about ironic and it doesn't even the meaning ironic isn't even it. You don't even
Yeah.
have it right. I mean, it's pretty far. To me, I don't know who it was aimed at, and I remember one of I'm not going to say who it was, but there was somebody in my family that isn't musical, and I was doing some kind of thing with them, and I climbed in the car and I saw they had that CD, and I admit from that moment on, my opinion of them went, because
Yeah.
if you I mean, to me it is to me it the lyrics burn my ears and my stomach like it's poison. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
Really, it makes me crazy. I hate it. Anyway, that's my number four. A lot of more sad. What's your take on it, Jay?
I never bought Atlantis 2. I only knew the ones on the radio, and I did read some article somewhere about the ironic song wasn't ironic. But doesn't that make it ironic?
I guess in a certain world, I guess it would.
Well, the one song, it was all autobiographical, and I'm pouring out my heart on the album. And the one song was about her relationship with Dave Coulier from Full
Oh yeah,
House, right? That was
yeah.
her ex-boyfriend who broke
They,
her heart, you know. And I mean, it was all over the radio. It was another one that I heard the album on the radio, and I didn't need to hear it anymore. Really, it got shoved down my throat too.
appalled. Well, that's why it is, man. All right, Jay, we're on. We're going to number.
Okay, my number 3. And like I said, all the albums that I'm going through is overrated. The ones I got suckered into buying, and some of them I still like especially this one. And this one from 1988 is one like I love the guy, but I didn't think this was one of his best albums. And it's Neil Young, Freedom, 1988.
Wow.
I was never
Yeah.
a big fan of Rockin' in the Free World. More the recording of it. Just that's my thing with this sound. And I had just got the El Dorado EP before I got this. And
Isn't
so
that
I
all?
was listening to that thinking this album was going to be as good as the El Dorado EP and, Crime in the City and some of the others on Broadway. I just wasn't digging it, man. And then it was like, okay, Neil Young's back. Even us Neil Young fans, you gotta love this album. It's the greatest thing ever. I'm like, no, that's coming in '91. But it's like,
Wow.
but Neil Young
Okay.
Freedom was my pick.
Wow. Dino.
Well, everyone's got an overrated album in them somewhere, and even Neil Young does. I might have picked another one that was overrated, but I think Jay's on the right track with this one too. "Rockin' in the Free World" was the track that was everywhere at that time, but the album itself, maybe lacking uh, as opposed to other Neil albums, solo albums. And then I was also a big fan of Crazy Horse, so that was my thing, But yeah, I could see that definitely.
I love Crazy Horse, man, but this record was a rebirth. I mean, when he gets on Saturday Night Live and plays with Steve Jordan and No More and all those songs, man, I just stunned because I know how much you love Dragon Glory.
Stop.
Blowing my mind on this. I mean, this is. This to me is, I mean, I love even the Linda Ronstadt thing, the older songs that he redid on that. I love that record. I adore that record. I can't say, I mean, Rockin' in the Free World is cheesy. Yeah, it is. I know. Crime in the City is kind of silly, especially, you know, what's especially silly is that, you know, on that tour before he did that, where he's doing acoustic, that freaking song, he was acoustic guitar, verse after verse. He was like doing like that one thing with a million
Yeah.
verses, like 23 verses of it. It went on for like 20 some minutes. He's just playing acoustic guitar. Some of those live versions, I think it's on one of the archive things. That's crazy. But anyway, yeah, man, I would say I don't agree with that one. I couldn't. I mean,
Can
I got you. I mean, I hear you. I hear what you're saying. I never, but
I
I
said you?
today you brought a brand new feel to it to me. I never thought about it like that, because I always saw that as coming at the end of life and all those ones where he into the
Yep.
everybody rocking and all that shit. It came at the end of that, so it was kind of like a redemption, you know, at the end of
But like
that.
I said, I got that El Dorado EP before
Oh, it's
this.
great. I agree. El Dorado.
Yeah.
So
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Where you going,
that's number
Dino?
three.
Okay, number three. Let's get this ball rolling from 1984. It's a band that was my own, I felt, up till that point. They released three absolute classics, in my opinion. I saw them on their last tour before they became this monstrous entity, and I saw them when they were cool. That's like that's always, and then they released this album, and forever and eternity they lost me. I was lost, and that's 1984's U2's "The Unforgettable Fire."
Ah,
Yeah, that was the end for me. And that's been the end. I've talked to hundreds of fans in Ireland and the UK and all over Europe, and they're always like the Trinity: Boy, October, War. And I saw
Yeah.
them on the War tour with 2,000 people, in a small arena, in a small gym. And that was it. That was War was it for me. And after that was when Bono became the savior. That was
okay.
In the Name of Love, Bad, MLK, Beacon of Light, and I was like, oh my God, don't preach to me, man. Dude, that's the last
Oh,
thing
good
you
Lord,
need to do.
October. That's all preaching.
No, well, but
That sucks.
Unforgettable Fire, that was the end for me, for you too. So,
I'm
and a
surprised.
lot of
But
it's critically acclaimed across the board. So,
yeah, I'm just surprised that you put it there, because I know a lot of people that would say Joshua Tree or that other one where they did the American type of thing.
yeah, Joshua Tree and that were
Radical.
one neck and neck for me. Unforgettable Fire and Joshua Tree. But
I
that's the album they lost me in '84.
Yeah, I just like some of the songs on. I still like some of the songs on Unforgettable Fire. So to me, that really didn't happen. But there was kind of a questioning that started there, and that's when you got the, when did that EP come out? That Orange LP, Under a Sky, where he's planting the.
Oh, Under a Blood Red Sky. Yeah.
Yeah, that was right before that, wasn't it, or something?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was at Red Rocks.
My
What
friend
what's your
John
number?
Rao is in that video. He's the
Yeah,
reason
he's
behind
in
it.
the video. I've seen the video. Yeah.
Who is now? Who's in there?
John
John
Rao
Rao.
was at
He's in that
he was
Fall
at
Guy
Red
show
Rocks.
up in Denver where they filmed that
He was at
real famous video for that
That was
EP.
live at Red Rocks.
Yeah.
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 He's there. And that was a hell of a show. It was in the fog. There was fog across the crowd and everything. It was wild. Yeah. I mean, it was a great show. Yeah.
What do you think about that particular record, Jay? Is there anything about that you think is would have opinion?
Uh, I I didn't buy a U2 album until all the Can't Left Behind, so I got into them real late. I saw them live
Yeah.
in 2000 when they came back inside, and they blew me away as a live band. So I didn't really buy these albums. I was never. I think the only U2 album I bought, I think I bought that first one that had I Will Follow on it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Boy.
back in the
Yeah.
punk day, I had that one. But so
So
I like.
where are we now? Are we ready for my number
We're
three?
we're at
Yep.
three, and I think it's your three, right?
My number three. Well, I'm going to go to the record that got the Grammys, the record that changed all, and the record that was, I guess, the archetype record when you think about recording when digital wasn't fully together, when digital came and ruined all the songs. I'm talking about that award-winning, crowning achievement, Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms, buddy. Look at
Wow.
that, yo yo. That's the way you learn. How about that one? And they do the walk in a walk of life. I mean, I want to hear
That's
I want to hear somebody from Memphis do it. I'm sorry. I don't need. I don't need Memphis by way of translation to rural England. I don't. And this guy's posturing, and his closeness to Randy Newman. That's smart. But I just never liked this stuff. Now, Love Over Gold, I fucking think's fantastic. I
Yeah.
think some of their other records sound good and are better, but they don't have the. There's something about the sweep or the swamp or the feeling of this where it doesn't feel genuine, and the fact that it dominated so much is probably the reason that I hate it as much as I do. So that's my number three, Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms. Good
I,
guitar
I
player.
I think you're right on with that one. Uh, as far as, I mean, you know what? I went back to the first album a couple months ago and listened to it all the way through, and I forgot how fucking amazing it was. The very first Dire Straits, and listening to Knopfler was like, he was it at that time, and that was a great album. But yeah, Money for Nothing. If I never hear that again, it's too soon.
I saw that tour
Did,
in Nashville. It was a pretty good
Did
show.
you? Oh, I bet it
Sting
was.
wasn't there.
that doesn't
Yeah.
bother you? So you're not that doesn't particularly get in your craw, I guess, Jay, huh?
I
Tony.
mean, I just went because I wanted to take this girl that like
There you go.
Well,
help
That's
that's
me
the
with
usually
it.
only reason to go to this
that's
concert.
usually the best reason, actually.
All right, man. Okay, whose
We're
turn?
off to number two.
I'm
We're
up.
off to
Number two. This is rather late in my, well, it was no longer record collecting days, CD collecting days, but I just heard so much about this band, and I'm like, I got to get this. And 1997's Radiohead, OK Computer. I mean,
Wow.
Paranoid Android and Karma Police, I guess were two songs on it, but I probably listened to it about 2, 3 times. Like, I don't know if I'm not doing the right drugs anymore or what, but yeah, I mean, it was okay, but to be the next greatest thing of what?
Amen.
So that's it. I don't know that much about it, but Radiohead. I bought it, listened to it twice. I think I smashed it too. I have this weird thing when I wasted money on albums and I don't like them, detest them from the very beginning. It's like I don't even want them in my collection.
Trade him in, get some money for him, do something, do something.
Yeah, I don't do
What,
too
what's
much.
your take? What's your take on it, Dino?
Well, I think Jay's right with the standout tracks on the album. Karma Police, Paranoid, and I listened to it quite a bit because I heard it on the radio. We still had HFS, I guess, at that time in DC, and they played the hell out of it. And I listened to it quite a bit. And I think it's the last album that they actually use guitars on. If you think back, they kind of abandoned a lot of that, after the new album. And I saw them for Pablo Honey, which was the first album.
Yeah.
They opened for a band called Belly in Florida,
I remember
and
Belly.
nobody paid them any attention, and they just blew them the hell off the stage.
I like
And
Creed.
yeah, and that's what it was. I mean, and it was that period. And and I like the albums before that, but yeah, it got a lot of praise for a few really standout tracks, but other than that, I think there was some filler on that album, definitely.
Yeah, Jay, this was on my list too, and I took it off in
Yeah, he did. You
I,
mentioned
yeah, I took it off in favor of of that being making another different list of some concept that
that.
better fit. They would get a little broader than OK Computer, but I agree with you 100%, dude. I bought it. I tried to. If it must be in the water that we drank when we were kids or something. We just can't connect with it. I don't. I've tried to. I tried very hard,
Well,
but
I had a relationship with them before I heard the album. So, seeing them and everything. And I was in a relationship thing and I was in a funk. And I remember when I got the album, I turned all the lights out in the room except the candle and I blasted it at night at like 3 in the morning. So I had a whole different head the first time I saw it or listened to it. And, but it wasn't something I constantly went back to.
well, it's time for
So.
you, Dino. It's time for you. Let's.
Number two, from 1988. It was their sixth album. By this time, once again, I was done. I saw this band originally at the 930 Club. They used to get in their van and go all the way up and down the East Coast and play any gig that they could. and they played the nine. I used to call them the house band at the 9:30, and I first saw them there opening for Bauhaus at the 9:30, and then I saw them again a couple other times and by themselves, and they started booking, and that's why I've always given them credit because
Dude,
they got their ass in the van and they went up and down and they played gigs, and that's how you get your ass out there. It's not just you got to play, you got to get in the groove and you got to play out live. And that band released an album in 1988 called Green. The album was called Green, and the band was REM.
Man,
Okay,
man, I
and
JNR.
man, Orange Crush, Stand. Oh God damn, Pop Song '89. Never. I've not listened to that album since like '89. Is like the last time I listened to it. But I mean they're two best for me: Chronic Town and Murmur. That's it, man. Those
Great
were
pick, great pick. Yeah, JNR getting ready to tackle the. That's what we're going to be our next rating thing here. So after we get done
what's
covering
that? REM.
REM's next on the list.
God,
Yeah.
if somebody puts that at number one, I'm not speaking to either one of you ever again.
I hate it.
Hey,
Is
my
that
take on you, buddy, is I agree. It does not feature prominently. It's not the lowest on the list of 16 records or whatever, but it's not. It's not in the top half.
Yeah,
That's all I'll say. Go ahead,
I
Jay.
yeah.
I agree too. Did that have shiny happy people on it too?
Yeah,
No,
isn't it?
was I don't think it was Green. I think it was the other one that I
I
didn't
don't know.
like.
By that point, I like about their first 4 or 5, and the sound that
Oh
got them
yeah.
there. And then on that one, I know what you mean. It's like, what the heck is it? I
So
agree.
Stand, man. Never want to hear it again.
He's a
So you're
piece.
number 2, Tony.
Going for my number two.
Yep.
All right, ready for everybody to be upset. Here's one of the ones I feel. Here's the album I thought of when I thought let's do this list.
Oh, I know where you're going.
You know where I'm going with this, and I'm going to
Yeah.
upset people, but because this is to me always revered as one of his great records, and may God rest his soul, one of the great artists of all time. I'm talking about David Bowie, Hunky Dory. Totally
Uh,
over.
that's my
Oh
favorite.
yeah, yeah. Well, that was
Queen Bitch. Queen Bitch is a hype. It's a
it
good
is.
song, but the Bewley Brothers to me lyrically is humiliating, and Song for Bob Dylan is just plainly inexcusable for any artist. For him to have gotten away with it, and it still makes these things. I mean, that is you're basically farrowing up to somebody on your knees and singing some ballad, and you thinking Bob Dylan's thing. If there ever was an example of how naive Bowie could be, that's the song. And I guarantee you that in his later years, if he could remove a track from his record, that would be one of the ones he would say, "I never did." And I think Quicksand is a lot of bullshit too.
Yeah.
I've never thought it was that great of a record. I think it's overrated. Is it a stepping stone? Yeah, but I mean, as far as I'm concerned, the man who sold the world shits it, man, kills it.
Oh
Kill.
yeah.
Man.
Anyway, what's your take on? I'm told to be so vile about it, but what do you think? What do you guys think about it?
That's my favorite Bowie album. I don't
Well,
know.
so there you go.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I like to hear.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Do I like Changes? Of course, Changes is fucking fabulous. You know what's the other one? Like Mars.
What's the
That's
one they
great.
played on American Horror Story? The one that Rick Wakeman plays the intro to? Life on Mars.
Yeah,
Oh,
Life on
Life
Mars.
on Mars.
Great. It's great.
It's a
It's
great
great.
song. Well, if you go back to our podcast, so everybody that's listening, go back and look at our Bowie podcast, the singles and the albums, and Tony expounds even more on Hunky
Yeah, and
Dory. And
it's when you hear something. I first heard this album on tape in John Altabella's Volkswagen and riding to Romney with Tim Zirk and Carl Seaver.
wow, wow, and I mean, it's not on on our Bowie show. I like it more than Tony, but it's not my favorite Bowie album. I love that period though. It's one of my favorite
Great.
periods, starting with the Spiders and moving through. And like Tony said,
No,
"Man, He Sold the World." That whole entire album is it's classic. It's timeless. And no, Hunky Dory does not even categorize in Man Who Sold the World. And you can see where my placement is in Man Who Sold the World in our top 25 Bowie or our Bowie countdown. You see
There
where
it
it
is. We both
takes
were.
place. It was very, very high on the list.
All right, guys, we're hitting the 40-minute mark. We're ready for the number one. So
Number
That's
here we
Jay.
one.
go.
I'll go first. This came out in 1991. I used to describe
Ooh.
him as U2 without the humor. It's Pearl Jam 10. Is that the first one that came out? I mean, it came out, and I heard about it, and well, Even Flow and Alive and that stupid Jeremy video. I just wanted to punch that kid in the video every time I saw it. And then I think I went to this Lollapalooza and just having them on the bill, they got too big too quick, and everyone was there to see Pearl Jam. But anyway, and the only song I've liked from them, I think that they've done since they began, was that cover they did of that song about the kid that got killed in the car crash.
Oh
Late at
yeah.
night in my daddy's car. I'm like, finally some humor. But yep, 1991's Pearl Jam 10. I did not get it, still don't. That's my number one.
What do you
Overrated.
think? What do you think?
Well, I, I I understand that, and I saw a lot of those bands from Seattle during that time period. Pearl Jam sprung from a band called Mother Love Bone with Andrew
Mm,
Wood,
I
and
have that.
Andrew Wood died of a drug overdose. And they did a lot of drugs in Mother Love Bone, and I think Mother Love Bone was a much better band than Pearl Jam. And he actually has a connection to West Virginia. If you listen to the one Mother Love Bone album, he calls out West Virginia in that album.
Heard that.
One of the standout tracks on that album. And this is what was left over the band, and they became Pearl Jam. They recruited Eddie Vedder. It isn't it. I would say it's definitely an overrated album. But what pisses me off more was at the beginning of the pair. Every I probably could name. I can't even name them anymore because they're a footnote in history. The bands that they inspired in the '90s that sounded exactly like them. One of them. What I'm trying to think of that band. Seven Mary Three. Absolutely horrible. But they inspired a whole group of bands that were really horrible, and that pissed me off more than anything. Really, with Pearl Jam. So,
Yeah, I didn't like that album they did with Neil Young either too much.
yeah,
I
he jumped on the bandwagon pretty quick with them.
Yeah, I thought that was surprisingly weak. And you know what it sounded like to me, that Neil record, Jay. It sounded like they just went in the studio and just did it. Okay, we'll just keep it.
I
You
think
know,
they
they
did. It sounded
whatever
like
happened.
Pearl Jam.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, man. I would agree with you generally about Pearl Jam and take a shovel and put Chris Cornell in that same pile and all this, even though they're not. I just don't get the whole rock god, long haired
Yeah,
flannel thing that was inspired by Nirvana. I think I like some of the stuff. Some of the stuff went in a decent direction, but you've got all that stuff like Tad and that other stuff that kind of came from it. I just am not. And that other guy that was a drug addict who had all this, who was living on the street and all this stuff during the stuff, Screaming Trees guy. It's just Mark Langland or whatever it is.
yeah, Mark Lanigan.
I
I
mean,
preferred Alice in Chains.
but I hate to say this, that falls into, and I know that Carter likes that stuff. Carter likes wasted rock. Carter likes he.
Wasted Rock. That's like a whole fucking genre, man.
Yeah, I'm not that. I'm not that much into that to a
Yeah,
certain extent because a lot of it was in a way imitative and I just don't. I just thought agree. I agree with you, Jay. More they're more of a band that I thought maybe I should put in the deal of being the
yeah.
uh, in a band because I just don't get the band. I don't get any of it really. I don't get it. So, but anyway, you're number one, Dino. Let's get rolling here.
Oh man, this band has a huge catalog going back to the '60s.
Oh boy.
Very famous band. There's two out. I wish we could pick two because I dislike both of these equally. Okay, but I'm only going to give you one. Okay, but I think you can figure out the other one that I never want to hear again, ever. And I would pick six albums out of their catalog right now over this one at any time. You just tell me, I'll pick six that I would listen to rather than this. I never want to hear it again. Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon. That is it. It's over. I don't want to hear it again. I don't want to hear fucking breathe. I don't want to hear that horrible money song ever again. I don't.
You
And
see,
I'm
I
gonna tell
think
you, I'll tell you the other one, and it's The Wall. I would go
okay, ball was on.
either either way, but I'm going Dark Side of the Moon right now. Never want to hear it again.
You know, and that's another one we should do. Maybe we should do another follow up to this of 5 records. It's not that you necessarily hate them, but that you've heard every bit of them so much, been played so much. Clearly, Dark Side. In my, I agree wholeheartedly with you, Dino. That would have been on my. I agree with The Wall too, and I'm looking here, and my number 7 on my list is the Wall. So that I agree with you. I never got The Wall, especially after. I mean, even though I wasn't crazy about Pink Floyd growing up, I still,
Yeah,
you go through the phase. Oh, Animals is out. Oh, Wish You Were Here is out. What was I like 10th grader when Wish You Were Here? I don't.
yeah.
But high school was it like you went through it? So yeah, man. What do you think about that one, Jay?
Well, I mean, how you watch Wizard of Oz without Dark Side of the Moon?
You
Well,
think about
there's an argument I didn't even think about.
it. Have you
I
seen that?
just
Though?
I
There's videos of that in there somewhere on there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
Oh, I tried to do it. We all went through Dark Side of the Moon phase.
So,
Well, hey, that brings us to the number 1. And my number 1, guys, is Prince's Purple Rain, the purple one. I never got it, as I understand. I don't get it. I don't understand the orb effect on the fans of how great their song is Purple Rain. Everybody just stands in wonder. Never got it. Love Prince, love him as an artist. Think he's fantastic, but I never got the lauding of Purple Rain. I really think song for song, Darling Nikki and all this stuff. It's all right. I much prefer Around the World in a Day, Kiss, songs like that, Raspberry Beret, the later stuff that he did actually with Sheila E and stuff. But this record for some reason bothers me. What's your guys' take on it?
I actually, I had bought Controversy in 1999 before this, so I sort of liked the album, the movie. I just sort of like was sort of validated me because I took a lot of shit for liking Prince in the first 2 albums,
I got you. I got you.
but I didn't
Yeah,
like
it was. Yeah, it was certainly linked to that video. That's for sure. I mean, that was just blew up to on a whole other level, man. That's when he went into Michael Jackson ish stardom, man. What's your take on it, Dina?
so you said you it sounds like you like the psychedelic pop of the new generation
Probably
more.
do. Yeah, I think a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean that makes sense, but I like the earlier dirty funk.
Yeah, me too.
Of 1999 Controversy, like Jay said. They're all great albums. I really wish I would have had a chance to see Prince during that time period. And I passed up some chances to see him live and I didn't go, and I regret that to this day because he was amazing
Is that the
musician
album?
and performer.
Did
Yeah.
that have When Doves Cry on it too?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, the big video and all that with a really
So,
great guitar player, man. He's a great musician.
Yeah.
I never understood it though.
I don't think I bought
All
the.
right, man. You guys want to whip around for one more? You guys got anybody in any honorable mentions or any closing thoughts here on this stuff? Jay, you go first. Go ahead, buddy.
Let me think. Honorable mention: the Eagles, yeah, as a group. No, I don't have anything new.
there, yeah.
What do you think, Dina? What you got? Any
I think I laid out everything. I mean, there's a lot of bands that have. Yeah, I mean, I would have to have a pretty loaded list. It would take quite a while to get to a lot of overrated bands and music that I've heard. I think we've covered a lot here in these 15 albums.
Yeah, man, I got a few that I would say that come to mind when if I expanded this list, such as Steely Dan, Gaucho, Miles Davis, Bitches Brew.
Right,
Bitches Brew is the ultimate build up that never gets there. It's like it's the best to be with a girl and you're getting there,
right.
but you never get there. That's what it feels like. Pink Floyd, The Wall, of course. Back in Black. And the AC/DC records, man. But again, that other thing. I'll go one further. The fact that the Grateful Dead can't carry a tune in a bucket, even on American Beauty. I'm sorry, I think it's overrated. It's an overrated Grateful Dead record. People think it's the greatest, but they tried to do
Right.
the Crosby, Stills and Nash. They did voices to do it. That you listen to the lines, they don't even make any sense. I mean, they jump all over the place.
Right.
It's bad. And then the last one is my favorite overhyped metal band of the late '80s or early '90s, Guns N' Roses, Appetite for
Oh
Destruction.
yeah, you don't like them. I know
Sweet
that.
child of mine. No, that's we're in John territory there, guys. So
Yeah.
I was a breath of fresh air and rock.
you liked them. Yeah, I liked it for a little while. Yeah, I know. Man, they definitely were dangerous bad boys, weren't they?
Oh, they were stupid
Yeah.
idiots.
Causing all the riots and shit.
Right,
He said he came
slapping.
out later all fat and
Zombie
shit.
dust. Their drug of choice
Right.
was zombie dust.
Well, guys, we'll have to get back here. We got some individual things we're going to do, and we'll get back
Yeah.
to another one of these fun. We had a good time here today, so we'll have to get this
Absolutely.
crew back together to
Yeah.
Sounds
cause
good.
some more rest.
All right, man. Well, hey, have a good one, and we'll think of something else soon, and we'll have a lot more content coming up. Like the page, like the videos. Leave your list of overrated albums.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, Joe, great job putting this
Thanks,
together
Joe.
and rescuing this. Yeah, this despite my screw ups, our great producer here, my son Joe. We'll
Producer
catch you guys
Joe.
next time. See you guys.
See you,
See ya.
man. Bye bye.